All right, we are live. We should be good to go. I hope everybody is doing well today. Today, we get to learn the truth. And I think most of us already know how this is most likely gonna go. But let's start off with the beginning here. The Canadian election was dominated by Donald Trump talk and Orange Man bad. Mark Carney spun the entire election along with the media into his favor to try and build up a narrative of our closest ally being our greatest enemy. And he ran on the premise that he was the best person, the man, the only person who could negotiate and deal with Donald Trump face to face, whether it's in the White House or in the House of Commons, wherever, over the phone, doesn't matter. His entire campaign, he ran on this exact fact that he was the man to go forward to deal with Trump. Now, I personally don't think he is. We saw him look like a deer in headlights, a fish out of water in the debate against Poilievre, Jagmeet, and Yves Blanchette. And I could only imagine, like I mentioned before, in the House of Commons, he's probably going to look like a fish out of water times 10. He's not going to be dealing with just Pierre. He's going to be dealing with an entire conservative cabinet. And like I said, based on the debate, Carney is not a strong debater. He's not a strong speaker. He's just not. But like I said, today is the day we learn if Carney actually can deal with Trump or not. And we're going to see it live. It's going to, I believe, be sort of like that Zelensky interview that happened, where they were surrounded by reporters and they were constantly being asked questions and they were speaking on their own behalfs or whatever. But I believe the exact same thing is going to happen here with these two, and we should get at least a solid half hour or more of them speaking to each other. And Donald Trump is known for dominating not just negotiation, but the room and taking control of the room. I don't know how this is going to go for Carney, other than possibly very, very poorly. The only things we've seen from him are the few reporter questionnaires that have happened where he's out speaking and they ask him some questions. And we've seen him in the debate. Let me take a sip of water here. And in both debates, the French and English, he did not fare very well, at least in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions. He did not look very good. But that's all we have. The odd reporter asking him a question, the tough question, and the debate. We have nothing from this guy in terms of how he's actually going to deal with world leaders, especially somebody like Donald Trump, who, like I said, he's not effing around this term. This is the make it or break it term for him, right? And there's a lot of 2028 talk saying that he's going to potentially allow the or move the lines so he can run again in 2028, but who knows what's actually going to happen. It could be one of his sons, it could be one of his family members going forward, it could be JD Vance that takes the head. Who knows? But at the end of the day, right now, as we currently sit here, in about 5-10 minutes, we're going to see these two face to face for the first time ever. Literally for the first time ever. And you honestly, you can't hate the CBC enough. Like, this is the CBC, by the way. Let me show you. There you go. You can't hate them enough. Canada new PM meeting face to face with a hostile American president. They're making it seem like Carney's gonna walk off the plane and instantly get arrested or something like that. That's just not the truth. It's just not true at all. We've seen numerous leaders now end up in the White House, whatever room of the White House that is, where they allow all the reporters in to huddle around and essentially just berate them for roughly an hour. We've seen it with Zelensky. We saw it with, it was either the Italian prime minister or the prime minister of France, one of the two. He was over there briefly as well. So, no, a hostile president, no, we need to relax here. Yes, he said some things, but he's clearly gone back on a lot of things he's also said as well. A lot of the tariffs he wants to implement, they're no longer implemented, other than the auto one that's still going on. But regardless of that, it's an interesting time with Donald Trump in office, and honestly, I'm all for it. I am all for it. My favorite thing coming out here recently, though, Trump is not sure what Carney wants to talk about at the White House meeting. This just makes me laugh. It honestly does. Trump is kind of trolling here. Obviously, he knows what he's going to bring up if he's able to get a word in. But he's going to bring up the 51st state. He's going to bring up Canada's sovereignty. But it just makes me laugh. I actually don't know what Mark Carney wants to meet and talk about. He called me up a few days ago. Mr. President, sir, we need to meet, and we need to do it quickly. There's a serious issue, and we need to mend this alliance. I don't know if that's what Mark Carney actually said. Probably not. But we know that Mark Carney has lied about the previous phone calls between him and Trump. There was no mention of the 51st state. They were civil calls that went well. They were good conversations. It's hard to believe that. I don't believe it for a second. This is going to be a big moment because 60% of the country voted in a guy who ran on specifically Donald Trump and him being the man to deal with him. And if he blows it here, which I can only imagine, the odds are more and more in the favor of him blowing it. If he screws up here, it's going to be a major spit in the face, a major, oh shit, we voted for the wrong person. Yeah, you don't think so. Yeah, you don't say. Holy. Guys, we are about to witness Mark Carney meet with Donald Trump any minute now. Any minute now. I wonder if Alberta will be mentioned at all today, if there will be any talk of them separating and becoming either their own country or nation or sovereign territory within Canada, however you want to label that, or if they just simply flat out join the United States. Major news last night, which, by the way, I covered on the Windy Archive channel, the Windy Talks Archive channel. I'm uploading some stuff there from here, and then if there's like an odd piece of news that comes out that I don't have enough to say about or enough to cover. For example, last night, Parkland, one of Canada's largest oil distributors, was purchased or is going to be purchased by Sunoco in a $9.1 billion deal. So I covered that briefly on the Windy Archive channel. That came out roughly after I uploaded the Danielle Smith video. So like I said, some things will go up there, most things will come up on this channel though. 100%, this is the main channel. The Windy Talks Archive channel is just an archive channel, just simply that. But like I said, guys, any minute now. Any minute now we're going to see the long-awaited meeting between these two. Aren't they business partners? That's what I've been hearing. It's funny. Mark Carney ran on Orange Man Bad as his main premise. The main narrative he pushed. And one of the things he did was put his businesses in New York. right in the heart of the Big Apple. Just funny. Very, very funny. People hand over fist voted for him. Just crazy. A lot of government workers, I guess. I don't know. A lot of people who could not see the writing on the wall. But yes, as I was saying, Parkland, one of the largest distributors of oil in Canada, natural resource company, purchased by US Sunoco for $9.1 billion. And yeah, one of the, what I would assume, many companies to probably head that direction based on the policies the Liberals want to implement. Whether it's the industrial carbon tax that is going to get hiked up, or going completely electric for renewable energy, as they call it, electric, renewable energy, and EV vehicles going forward. If they are business partners, that probably means Trump made a crap ton of money off Carney. Well, you know, Trump is a businessman, and he's a very wealthy one at that. So I could only imagine he would take the opportunity to make the money if he could. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say. I don't know. I don't have the inner workings, and I find it hard to believe that really any of these news organizations have the one-of-one fact or evidence of what either of these individuals do behind the scenes. Let's be real here. There's a lot of stuff they probably do behind the curtains that we will never, ever hear about. And like I said, I find it kind of hard to believe that the mainstream media just constantly knows what's happening with these two. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe a bit of a tinfoil hat conspiracy coming from me. I don't know. But one thing I do know for sure is that any minute now, these two will be meeting face to face, and we will see Mark Carney either fold like a deck of cards, or I don't know. I honestly don't know what Trump is going to say or do or how he's going to react. I can only imagine 51st state talk, though, from the reporters. Probably one of the first questions that will be asked from the reporters is that. Specifically, Canada's sovereignty, 51st state, yada yada. I don't know the thought process behind the voter that voted for Mark Carney. And to be honest with you, I saw videos, there were people that said if Trudeau was still in power, they would vote for him again too. So I just think they're so far left, they're so far gone in that direction that no matter who is in power, they look at the middle, or they look at a little bit leaning into the right as the like hardcore right extremist. And it's just not true. Like, they've gone so far left that everybody is now a right-wing extremist, essentially. You have an opposing opinion, even in the slightest. You disagree on one issue, but agree on simply everything else, for example, like J.K. Rowling. She doesn't necessarily agree with the whole car transmission issue, if you can break that down. But she agrees on it pretty much every other leftist activist issue, but they demonize her every step of the way for the car transmission issue. And the car transmission issue, you can get rid of the car and the mission part, and you can put two and two together. Look, I don't understand their thought process. We saw them freaking out and screaming in long lineups to vote for Carney, to go into Carney rallies. We saw a guy sticking fingers up his nose while attempting to escalate things to a situation that would involve the cops. It was very weird. A lot of weird stuff going on there. But the past is in the past, at least for the election. Don't forget the past, but don't dwell on it too much. You know, there's still a lot to come. The future, it's a crazy, crazy place right now, so we don't know what's gonna happen. But absolutely never forget the past. Do not forget it. Those who forget are doomed to repeat. Okay, here we go, guys. We have some movement here. Could only assume they are pulling up to the spot now. I mean, hopefully. If not, then we're behind schedule. The White House is behind schedule. Shocker. Or maybe Mark Carney is behind schedule. Shocker. Not really. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day as we wait for Trump to meet with sadly, newly elected Canadian Prime Minister. I didn't want to say the word. Mark Carney. If you are new here, make sure you hit that sub button. If you haven't already, hit that like button. I try to upload daily, but I also don't want to be like one of those YouTube channels that uploads 3 videos a day talking about the same thing, essentially, in every video. Alright, well, while we continue to wait for this, I'm gonna hit the media and see what is popping up. We have apparently Norway trending in Canada right now. Not exactly sure why. Oh, okay, I see why. Okay. Oh, wow, okay. Stuff going on there that I actually cannot show. God, France has become just a disaster. What a nightmare of a place to live, or even go and visit. Just got robbed. $1,550 within 10 minutes of landing in France. In Nice, France, in Nice, France, wherever. Nice, France. I don't know if that's a specific city or not, but France, what a hellhole. What a disaster. Would not want to go anywhere over there. As a matter of fact, the EU just becomes more and more of a disaster as things continue on. Nice, France, thank you for the correction. I remember the German government was arresting people for memes on Twitter a few months back. Just posting simple memes on Twitter. That was a crazy thing that happened. Probably still happening to this day. I believe the same thing happens in the UK. And I'm not just talking out of my ass when I say this. This is legitimate stuff that has happened. And on top of that, there was the news that Mark Carney did want to go after social media giants. I could only assume X, Facebook, and potentially YouTube. I don't know if you could slot Rumble into a social media giant, but it's definitely a free speech advocate, so I would assume they're probably going to put that in there as well. I believe Rumble is also a Canadian company. Okay, so we are severely behind schedule here for this White House meeting. Not entirely sure what is going on here. Big Alberta news. Did you guys see that massive rally? I did cover it for a bit on one of the videos there, but we did have quite a few people. I'm not Albertan, But I'm sure thinking about it. I'm sure thinking about moving there in the future if it's possible. A huge rally for the separatist movement, or separating from Canada to become an independent nation. Now, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people here, and the change.org petition has gone well over 220,000 people total now. And Danielle Smith did come out and say, if enough people vote for this, it will get added to the ballot in 2026. And I could only imagine, if things don't go well with Mark Carney and the federal liberal government and Alberta, people will probably continue to have that same energy, and that 200,000+ people will most likely follow suit on that ballot, and you'll see that vote hit the 2026 ballot. Now, she said herself that the party, the Conservative, the United Conservative Party in Alberta, I believe that's what they are, they will not push the vote themselves, but if enough people vote for it, it will end up on that ballot. Like I said, well over 220,000 people. I'm going to try and find that Alberta independence ballot again, or a vote again. It was a change.org. Let's see here. While I look for that, I'm going to pull this back up just so we don't miss anything. So well over the amount they needed, which I believe was 177,000. So if people are still 19 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, 24 minutes ago, still adding their signatures to the ballot. So if this energy continues, and I mean the energy of the people wanting to separate into 2026, if it continues, it very well could be a bye-bye Alberta. Because as much as, the First Nation people have these treaties and laws or rights over the land, and they technically can't separate, if enough people come forward and the vote gets cast, I don't actually think it matters at that point. I can't be 100% certain with that, because there would still have to be negotiations between all parties of Alberta, and I could only assume, well, not assume, it's already guaranteed that the NDP would not want to separate. They've already made that quite clear. They're the official opposition in Alberta. And the native side of Alberta most likely wouldn't want it either. But it's hard to say which path they would go down. And I mentioned this earlier, would they separate and become their own sovereign nation, like their own actual country, or would they become a sovereign nation that is still a part of Canada? Kind of like a Quebec situation almost, where they might even get the chance to put their own members into a federal election, like the Bloc does. Here we go. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, so we briefly saw Trump and Carney like pop out, and yeah, there they are. Uh, any minute now, guys. We'll be inside, most likely getting questions from reporters. Hopefully, this is the right broadcast. I'll have to double check here. I appreciate the correction in chat from Shane. Yes, the actual referendum movement is the Alberta Prosperity Project. I don't see any numbers though, like total votes. I would have to look maybe a bit further. I don't see any total numbers on there, so it's just an idea, I guess, on the change.org website of how many people would actually be supporting of this. And based on the major rally that happened, I could only assume that energy would probably continue into 2026. Okay, this is probably not the correct feed. I think it just down. No, okay, it's still there. Okay, I don't know what's going on with that feed. Let's see if we can get a Mark Carney Trump. They could be switching the cameras over to inside from out. So we'll just give this a couple seconds to either correct itself or whatever happens there. But I do have an alternate feed up just in case. Literally any second now, I would assume. Carney arrived. He arrived 20 minutes late to the meeting. Do have a CBC broadcast here, but oh, okay, here we're back. We are back. And Rosemary's on CBC right now. Nobody wants to see that.
As
All right, I've got a couple different feeds up right now, so they're all showing the exact same thing. We are just waiting, I guess, a little bit longer for them to figure out what is going on here. Okay, now we have this angle. Interesting. I can only imagine the reporters are going to be just... Oh, they're going to be going crazy tonight, or today.
Yeah, that's true. Your TV audio? No. We're bringing it right together. Are you guys? You guys probably aren't going to be on the ground, right? Because you'll be blocked, so you'll be standing on like the side of the chairs.
This is a professional news broadcast, guys, at its finest. They're live, they probably don't even know it, and they're discussing what they're gonna do in front of nearly 10,000 people. Congratulations. Professional news, legacy media at its finest. Okay.
But if you take away the energy, there's actually a trade surplus for the Americans on goods and services. However, you know, this is a long-standing point of contention for Donald Trump. He is angry that, you know, Canada and the United States, Canada does not put as much money into national defense as other NATO allies have. Yeah. Sometimes the way he describes it, he talks about it as if it's paying a fee. It's not sort of how NATO works. Countries agree to pledge a certain percent of GDP. Right now, it's 2%.
And, like, that's the thing. It wouldn't be their first time doing this either. And they're sitting there live talking about their strategy or their plan in front of everybody. Like, they're so unorganized. It is crazy. It's actually crazy. They had probably hours upon hours to set up, make sure things were working and correct. And they're doing it 5 minutes before these two are most likely going to, like, speak. Like I said, any minute now. Literally any minute now, these two will be talking. And there will be a ton of reporters surrounding them. It's like they don't even know how to do their own job at this point. It's brutal watching these buffoons fool around with camera equipment and just stumble over one another. Oh God, it's Rosemary.
He said, I did that. That is because of me. Look, voters, what I accomplished. That is something that Donald Trump always wants. And that is sort of a baseline of what Trump is always trying to achieve, something he can point to as a victory. The other thing about that True Social post, though, is that it's the trade talk that worries so many auto workers, people who work in different sectors, when he says we don't need their cars. He very openly talks about what his goals are when it comes to the tariff agenda. He wants to take jobs, even at the expense of other countries, even at the expense of allies, if it is the case, and bring good-paying auto jobs, good-paying manufacturing jobs back to the United States. Now, the way the Trump administration has sort of talked about some of those jobs, it's unclear of what the bigger, bolder vision is. You know, Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, has said on a number of occasions that, listen, we're going to build these state-of-the-art factories, and there's going to be a lot of robotic technology, and the good jobs are going to be people maintaining the robots, those kinds of things, and building the factories. So, you know, it is mixed messaging, but at the end of the day, Donald Trump is openly talking about how he wants to bring more jobs, grow jobs in America, even if it's at the expense of allies and other countries.
Yeah, good points, Katie. Thank you for that. Katie, we'll come back to you. CBC's Katie Simpson in Washington. Go over to Paul Hunter now, who also has a thought. Paul?
Hey, Rosie. Yeah, a couple things. I'm just watching on our monitor off screen, by the way, the camera pool that is gathering outside the Oval Office. So that's, I guess, evidence that this will be carried live. If that was in doubt, oftentimes these things are what they call tape turns. They go and they record it on videotape and then bring it back out and play it back live. So we will expect to see this, and they are gathering now. Sometimes I've seen this before. They can stand there for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, so don't get your hopes up that it's imminent. But they are gathering. And I would also say a message to our control room, not to be careful with the audio on these things, because sometimes the camera people are chatting about what they had for dinner last night, so it can be complicated. Anyway, picking up on some of the stuff that came.
Yeah, not just chatting about what they had for dinner, but how to do their jobs and who is doing what part of the job. They are so unorganized. It is hilarious. It's so bad. Multi-billion-dollar news organizations. Holy Christ. They literally said in an article and confirmed it that they would show up at 11:45 and things would begin most likely and end around 1. And now they're running back on their word again. Typical mainstream media, like they always do. And they are now saying, oh, well, we don't know when it's going to start. We actually don't know anything. My God, guys. My God. They're lying about time frames. Like, holy Christ. I went live at a specific time because I read in it was either a CBC article or CTV News article or one of these legacy media articles that was when it was going to start. Here we are, though. Still waiting.
I'm not pushing.
Okay, there are cabinet officials, secretaries, and ministers on each side of the leaders there.
All right, guys, here we go.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit. His party was losing by a lot, and he ended up winning. So I really want to congratulate him. It was probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics, maybe even greater than mine. You know. But I want to just congratulate you. That was a great election, actually. We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person, because we spoke before the election quite a few times. And it's an honor to have you at the White House and the Oval Office. And you see the new and improved Oval Office as it becomes more and more beautiful with love. You know, we handle it with great love and 24-karat gold. That always helps too, right? But it's been a lot of fun. We're going over some of the beautiful pictures that were stored in the vaults that were for many, many years, in some cases over 100 years. They were stored in vaults of the great presidents, or almost great presidents, all having a reason for being up, every one of them. So it's very interesting. But I just want to congratulate you, and ran a really great race. I watched the debate. I thought you were excellent, and I think we have a lot of things in common. We have some tough points to go over, and that'll be fine. We're going to also be discussing Ukraine, Russia, the war, because Mark wants it ended as quickly as I do. I think it has to end. We had some very good news last night. The Houthis have announced that they are not, or they've announced to us at least, that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight. And we will honor that. And we will stop the bombings. And they have capitulated, but more importantly, we will take their word. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore. And that's what the purpose of what we were doing. So that's just news. We just found out about that. So I think that's very, very positive. They were knocking out a lot of ships going, as you know, sailing beautifully down the various seas. It wasn't just the canal. It was a lot of other places. And I will accept their word, and we are going to stop the bombing of the Houthis, effective immediately. And Marco, you'll let everybody know that, okay? Do you have something to say about that, by the way? It's a pretty big announcement.
Yeah, this was always a freedom of navigation mission. These guys, these are, you know, a band of individuals with advanced weaponry that were threatening global shipping. And the job was to get that to stop. And if it's going to stop, then we can stop. And I think it's an important development.
And we'll have maybe before, we're going to, as you know, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. We're going to UAE and Qatar. And that'll be, I guess, Monday night. Some of you are coming with us. I think before then, we're going to have a very, very big announcement to make, like as big as it gets. And I won't tell you on what, but it's going to, and it's very positive. I'd tell you if it was negative or positive. I can't keep that out. It is really, really positive. And that announcement will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before we leave. But it'll be one of the most important announcements that have been made in many years about a certain subject, very important subject. So you'll all be here. Mark, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat, actually, for the big announcement. But thank you for your hospitality and above all, for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada. With a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can move forward.
That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much. It's a very nice statement. Anybody?
Is USMCA dead?
No, it was actually very effective, and it's still very effective, but people have to follow it. So, that's been a problem. People haven't followed it. But it was a transitional step a little bit, and as you know, it terminates fairly shortly. It gets renegotiated very shortly. But I thought it was a very positive step from NAFTA. NAFTA was the worst trade deal in the history of our country, probably in the history of the world. And this was a transitional deal, and we'll see what happens. We're going to be starting to possibly renegotiate that if it's even necessary. I don't know that it's necessary anymore, but it served a very good purpose. And the biggest purpose it served is we got rid of NAFTA. NAFTA was a very unfair deal for the United States. A very, very terrible deal. It should have never been made. It was made many years ago, but it should have never been made.
Mr. President, Canada and the United States, would you like to see your first trade deal be with Canada, our neighbors in the world?
I would love that. Look, I have a lot of respect for this man, and I watched him come up, in a sense, through the ranks when he wasn't given much of a chance, and he ran a really great campaign. He did a really great debate. I think that debate was very helpful. I was going to raise my hand. I don't know if that's good or bad. I shouldn't say that. That might hurt you. But no, he ran a really great election, I thought. And yeah, something could happen. Something could happen.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
But that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada. Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada. My parents had relatives that lived in Canada, my mother in particular. And I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, how good, the great one. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals, who I have a lot of. He is a big, tough cookie.
Some of the best.
Broke the record, and he's a great guy. And we had the team here, and I got to know a lot of the players. But now Canada is a very special place. Yeah, please.
Mr. President and Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to get your response to this too. But Mr. President, you have said that Canada should become the 51st state. Were you chosen?
No,
there it is.
Well, I still believe that, but it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel across the top of the country for Canada. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person. But when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that There are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, they were low and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never. Never say never.
What would it take to get the tariffs off of Canada?
Well, we'll be talking about different things. Like, we want to protect our automobile business, and so does Mark. But we want to make the automobiles, and we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have, just in Alaska alone, ANWR has been reopened now. ANWR is probably the largest find anywhere in the world. They say it's larger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it's a lot. But we have tremendous amounts of energy. Other countries don't. We're both lucky in that way. They have energy. We have energy. We have more than we can ever use and more than we could ever sell, actually. And you have the same thing. So we're two countries that are very lucky. If you look at China, they don't have that. It's a big disadvantage. Other countries, most countries don't have. Most countries don't have that. So Canada and us, we have a lot of advantages over other places.
Mr. President, when you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time. But I say never. I've had many, many things that were not doable, and they ended up being doable, and only doable in a very friendly way. But if it's to everybody's benefit, Canada loves us and we love Canada. That's, I think, the number one thing that's important. But we'll see. I mean, over time, we'll see what happens. China.
I was hoping you can clarify something. Earlier this morning on Capitol Hill, Secretary Bessent said that there had been no negotiations yet with China. You have said something different.
They want to meet, and they're doing no business right now. And those ships are turning around in the Pacific Ocean. Big turn. Those are big ships. Those ships take about 10 miles to turn. And, we lost $1 trillion to China on trade because of an incompetent president that we had who preceded me, grossly incompetent. You're finding it out more and more now. And by not trading, we're losing nothing. So we're saving $1 trillion. It's a lot. But they want to negotiate, and they want to have a meeting, and we'll be meeting with them at the right time.
But you haven't met with them yet.
I have not met with them, no, of course. You would know if I met. I'd tell you. They want to meet, but, we are right now. Look, they're suffering greatly. Their economy is suffering greatly because they're not doing trade with the U.S. And they made most of their money off the U.S. Don't kid yourself. They don't make the money off other countries like this. And we had a trade imbalance. We had a deficit, or they had a surplus, another way of saying it, of more than $1 trillion. Think of it, more than $1 trillion. And because of 145%, that's the only reason, but because of they have now 145% tariff, there's no trading. You can't trade with 145%. We are, therefore, making, in a certain way, I guess, $1.1 trillion. In other words, we're not losing $1.1 trillion. Our deficit is much better. When I started, I say we were losing billions of dollars a day on trade. That's rapidly turning around. We looked at numbers this morning. So we were losing, the United States during Biden was losing more than, I won't even give you numbers because they're so embarrassing, but billions of dollars a day on trade. Those numbers are rapidly turning between the tariffs. Don't forget, we're now getting 25% on cars, 25% on aluminum, 25% on steel, and maybe more importantly, massive numbers of companies are moving into the United States. Honda, we have tremendous, the car companies are moving in at levels we've never seen before. The biggest investment ever made in the United States is being made right now. Trillions of dollars. I would say we could be at $9 trillion. You could go back to other presidents. They haven't had $1 trillion for their entire term. Look at Biden. He had bad numbers. People were leaving. They weren't coming in. They were leaving with Biden, and he didn't know the difference. The only thing he knew is people coming in. You know who they were? Illegal immigrants, okay, from prisons, from mental institutions, from all sorts of places that weren't good, from gangs, from Venezuela. They were coming in and they were criminals and murderers, 11,888 people that murdered, and at least half of them murdered more than one person. This is what Biden led into our country. I'm bringing in big companies. We have Apple is investing $500 billion. We have Jensen, as you know, is going to be 500 biggest chip maker, or chip thinker, I call him. He's really a thinker more than a maker. But we also have the maker, Mr. Wei. I get to know them all in the last, it was a cram course. But they're all moving into America because of the tariffs. And I don't think people have appreciated it. Some people do. Some of the smart people do. So we have more money coming in. It's really an amazing thing. We have more money being invested in the United States now than at any time ever before in our history, and it's not even close. And I think the real number could be 9 or 10 trillion. We don't know everybody that's doing it. We have many. I just heard about a plant that's being built right now, a very, very top-of-the-line company, and they didn't come to the White House. They're just doing it because they're making it because if they build here, there are no tariffs. And this is the big market. This is the market. That sets us apart from it. This is the market where everyone wants to be. Now, if I didn't come here and do this, all of a sudden we wouldn't be the market where everyone wants to be. So we were able to do it in time. But we're going to have a great announcement. And I'm not necessarily saying it's on trade. Going to the beginning, we're going to have a great announcement over the next few days, an announcement that will be so incredible, so positive. And I'm not saying, I don't want you to think it's necessarily on trade. Just to finish, we also have a situation, because everyone says, when are you going to sign deals? We don't have to sign deals. We could sign 25 deals right now, Howard, if we wanted. We don't have to sign deals. They have to sign deals with us. They want a piece of our market. We don't want a piece of their market. We don't care about their market. They want a piece of our market. So we can just sit down, and I'll do this at some point over the next 2 weeks, and I'll sit with Howard and Scott and with our great vice president, who has done a really good job. We have some good news to report on a lot of fronts. But JD will be there, and Marco, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to put very fair numbers down, and we're going to say, here's what this country, what we want, and congratulations, we have a deal. And they'll either say, great, and they'll start shopping, or they'll say, not good, we're not going to do it. I said, that's okay, you don't have to shop. Now, we may think, well, they have a right, you know, that maybe we were a little bit wrong, so we'll adjust it. And then you people will say, oh, it's so chaotic. No, we're flexible. But we'll sit down, and we'll, at some point, in some cases, we'll sign some deals. It's much less important than what I'm talking about. For the most part, we're just going to put down a number and say, this is what you're going to pay to shop. And it's going to be a very fair number. It'll be a low number. We're not looking to hurt countries. We want to help countries. We want to be friendly with countries. But you keep writing about deals. When are we going to sign? When? It's very simple. We're going to say, in some cases, we want you to open up your country. In some cases, we want you to drop your tariffs. I mean, India, as an example, has one of the highest tariffs in the world. We're not going to put up with that. And they've agreed already to drop it. They'll drop it to nothing. They've already agreed. They would have never done that for anybody else but me. So we're going to put down some numbers, and we're going to say our country is open for business. And they're going to come in, and they're going to pay for the privilege of being able to shop in the United States of America. It's very simple. It's very simple. So I wish they'd stop asking, how many deals are you signing this week? Because one day we'll come and we'll give you 100 deals. And they don't have to sign. All they have to do is say, oh, we'll start sending our ships right now to pick up whatever we want or to bring whatever we want. It's very, very simple. And I think my people haven't made it clear. We will sign some deals, but much bigger than that is we're going to put down the price that people are going to have to pay to shop in the United States. Think of us as a super luxury store, a store that has the goods. You're going to come and you're going to pay a price, and we're going to give you a very good price. We're going to make very good deals. And in some cases, we'll adjust. But that's where it is. And we've been ripped off by everybody for 50 years, and we're just not going to do that anymore. We can't do that. And we can't let any country do that to us. We're just not going to do it anymore.
Can you tell us a bit more about the deal that you've reached with the Houthis?
No, it's not a deal. They've said, please don't bomb us anymore, and we're not going to attack your ships.
And where did you hear about that?
It doesn't matter where I hear it. The very good source, I could tell you. Very, very good source. Would you say, Marco? I would say pretty good, right, JD? A very good source. No, they don't want to be. They don't want to be. They don't want to be bombed anymore. You know, I sort of thought that would happen. No, behind you, please.
Clarifying something you said on USMCA. Is the U.S. prepared to walk away from that pact?
From what pact?
USMCA.
No. It's fine. It's there. It's good. We use it for certain things. It's there. We have the USMCA is a good deal for everybody. I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know who I'm talking about. But so, you know, we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that we disagreed with the way they viewed the deal. And we ended it. You know, we ended that relationship pretty much. The USMCA is great for all countries. It's good for all countries. We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Mr. President.
I'll say a word on USMCA, if I may, Mr. President. It is a basis for a broader negotiation. Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA. So it's going to have to change. There's other elements that have come, and that's part of what we're going to discuss.
Right.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American betrayal. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. You know, we have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell, including military. Look, we make the best military equipment in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the submarines, everything. Everything we have is really top notch. I rebuilt our military during our last term. Stupidly, we gave some away to Afghanistan, which shouldn't have happened. But that was, I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. It was just very incompetent people. But if you look, the man that's now the head of our Joint Chiefs, he led the attack on ISIS for me. That's why he's the head of the Joint Chiefs. And Raisin Kane, he was unbelievable. And as you know, we defeated ISIS in 3 weeks. It was supposed to take 5 years. We did it in 3 weeks. And he ran the campaign. I said, I like him. But I knew him before. I went to Iraq, and we agreed to a plan, and that was the plan. And as you know, we did it in record time. So we have the best equipment in the world. We have the best, a lot of things. And but Canada, it does a lot more business with us than we do with Canada. Yeah.
Mr. President, and as you record your investments, Mr. President, when do you think the investments that you've announced, the trillions, will finally hit economic data this year?
When you're saying about the tariffs and all?
No, about the investments that you've announced.
Oh, it's hitting right now. Look, they're already starting AI plants. These are not people that look for financing. That's a good thing. You know, in real estate, you get a site, then you have to look for financing. You have to get your zoning. You know, 5 years later, you start building. You get a bank, then the bank's no good. And these people have massive amounts of cash. The CHIPS Act was a ridiculous thing because that doesn't get them to build. All we did is hand very wealthy companies money. The CHIPS Act that was done by Biden. Billions, we give them billions of dollars. They don't even have to do anything with it. And then if you weren't, if you didn't have, and I don't want to be a wise guy, but if you didn't go with the DEI, if you didn't go with all of the different things, woke, if you weren't woke, you couldn't even use the money. You had to have a certain percentage of this and that and that and that. It's impossible to have. The companies actually complained to me. They said they gave me all this money, but nobody can get these people to do anything. I mean, look, President Obama, and if he wanted help, I'd give him help because I'm a really good builder and I build on time, on budget. He's building his library in Chicago. It's a disaster. And he said something to the effect, I only want DEI, I only want woke. He wants woke people to build it. Well, he got woke people, and they have massive cost overruns. The job is stopped. I don't know. It's a disaster. And I don't like that happening because I think it's bad for the presidency that a thing like that should happen. He's got a library that's a disaster. And he wanted to be very politically correct, and he didn't use good, hard, tough, mean construction workers that I love, Marco. I love those construction workers. But he didn't want construction workers. He wanted people that never did it before. And he's got a disaster in his hands, like millions of dollars, many millions of dollars over budget. And I would love to help him with it, or somebody else. I could recommend professionals, but it was not built in a professional manner. By the way, nor was in California a little train going from San Francisco to Los Angeles that's being run by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Did you ever hear of Gavin Newsom? He has got, that train is the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. It's like totally out of control. So then they said, all right, we won't go into San Francisco. We'll stop 25 miles short. And we won't go into Los Angeles. We'll stop 25 miles short. It's hundreds of billions of dollars for this stupid project that should have never been built. And then they realized that it would have been a lot less costly if we just gave limousine service back and forth and gave it free. They would have saved hundreds of billions of dollars. They have airplanes that go there for one 1/100th the cost. And they have cars. They have a thing called the highway that goes back and forth that's not fully utilized. And they got involved with this project. And Gavin, I always liked Gavin. I had a good relationship with him. I just got him a lot of water. I sent in people to open up that water because he refused to do it. And we just got him a lot of water. If they would have had that water, and if they would have done what I said to do, they wouldn't have had the fires in Los Angeles. Those fires would have been put out very quickly. But if you think about it, and you got to take a look at this, it's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. I've watched a lot of stupid people build a lot of stupid things, but that's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen, what's happening between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And you ought to ask about that because this government is not going to pay. I told our very great new Secretary of Transportation, he's doing a good job, Sean Duffy, I said, we're not going to pay for that thing. It's out of control. This is something that you don't have things like this. It's not even conceivable. Like 30 times over budget, 30 times. It's the craziest thing and now it's hundreds of, it was supposed to be a simple train. And I think the media should take a look at it. And I'd love him to run for president on the other side. I'd love to see that. But I don't think he's going to be running because that one project alone, well, that and the fires and a lot of other things, pretty much put him out of the race.
Mr. President, what changes would you like to see to the U.S.?
What the hell is Carney doing with his hands?
Work on some subtle changes, maybe. I don't even know if we're going to be dealing with USMCA. We're dealing more with concepts.
He looks incredibly uncomfortable.
We have trade. They're paying a tariff on cars and steel and aluminum. And I think we have a baseline of 10% or something like that for the tariffs. But we're getting along very well. Right now, going no further, but we have an agreement. We did something with even parts. You want to discuss that, Howard, with respect to Canada, which helps Canada out?
Sure. So we've made an arrangement with the car companies that 15% of their USMCA parts are included, and then 15% of foreign parts from the manufactured suggested retail price are not tariffed to help domestic manufacturing really thrive.
So it gave them a chance to be able to build their car parts factories if they're going to. A lot of these companies already have factories, and what they have to do is just fill them out. But they're able to build them in the United States, so we gave them a pretty substantial period of time.
Just to clarify, Mr. President, is there anything the Prime Minister can say to you today to change your mind on tariffing Canada?
Tariffing cars?
Tariffing Canada. Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
What's your first state?
Yeah.
If Canadians don't want it, would you respect that?
Sure, I would. But this is not necessarily a one-day deal. This is over a period of time they have to make that decision. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. Well, respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st state. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation. But we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada. And at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz, we love doing that. Thank you very much. We're going to have a very substantial vote. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that is the end of that. Holy Christ, Carney. Carney looked lost. Trump straight up said to his face, "We don't need anything from you. We literally don't want anything from you. At all. We don't want your steel. We don't want your lumber. We don't want your cars. We don't want anything from Canada. Period. We want to build it here in America." And Carney just sat there. He didn't say a damn thing. He did not say a word for the entire thing. He got maybe 10 sentences in total. I mean, come on. This guy, he ran his entire election on being the guy to deal with Donald Trump. And yeah, sure, this is a press conference. It's public. They're going to go behind the scenes and probably discuss more things. But for representing the country in the public eye, he did the worst job possible. No, it wasn't a Zelensky-sized disaster where he freaks out and loses his shit and gets kicked out of the White House. But this was... He just flat out said to his face, "We don't want anything from you and we don't need anything from you, and that is why we are tariffing you, and we will no longer subsidize Canada." And Carney just sat there. He said nothing. He said nothing and just smiled for most of it. And at the very end of the press conference, they were smiling and having a jolly old time. Like, guys, this is pathetic. That was pathetic. That was actually pathetic on Mark Carney's side. What a joke. What a actual joke. Oh my god. He made himself look terrible there. He made the entire country look worthless and pathetic. Our biggest trade partner just said to our Prime Minister's face, "We don't want anything from you anymore. Game over, bye-bye. We're making it here in America instead." And he just sat there. Oh my god. He just sat there and smiled. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. Body language is everything in situations like this, and Carney was fidgeting with his hands the entire time. He was stopping himself from bouncing his leg, which can be a nervous tic. It can be. And his cabinet ministers just smiled. Obviously, they're not going to say anything, but like, this was a joke. If Americans thought Canada was a pathetic waste of a country, this did not help. This just further pushed us into the light of we're useless to them, essentially. My god. And after seeing Parkland be bought out by Sunoco, Canada's largest oil and petroleum distributor in Canada, and natural resource distributor in Canada, being one of the largest, being bought by an American Sunoco for $9.1 billion, it's the beginning of every company being bought out by Americans. Because A, they don't want to pay the tariffs, and B, they don't want to pay the carbon tax. Guys, to the over 60% of liberals that voted this man in, you get what you voted for. You get what you voted for. I got nothing else to say at that point, ladies and gentlemen. This was a joke, and Mark Carney just represented Canada in the worst ways possible. You literally can't make it up. You literally can't make this up. The entire election and campaign, he was bashing Trump and destroying him, or saying he was the man to negotiate with him. And Trump just annihilated him for 30 minutes straight. and he said pretty much nothing other than Canada is not for sale. Well, congratulations, Mark Carney, because businesses are for sale and they're moving to the United States, and you've done absolutely nothing to stop that. You fucking fool. All right, guys, rant's over. That is going to do it for today's live stream. Thank you all for joining. If you are new here, make sure you hit that sub button. If you haven't already, hit the like button, and check out the Windy Talks archive channel where I upload little tidbits of news and stuff that don't make it into, I guess, the main video that I post or try to post daily. Anyway, have a great rest of your day or night, depending on where you are from, and I will see you guys in the next one. My God, 60% of the country voted for this guy, and he has done nothing. He did nothing. Oh, take it easy, guys.